Ladies and gentlemen, all thanks to Marvin Jerry, my new Wooden Railway collection is, well, pretty much complete. Or at least the roster of characters I care to have. That are also steam engines. After what feels like forever, James is finally joining this collection. And even though recently I made a pretty big review focusing on the Thomas, Percy, and Gordon, the new model of James manages to stick out for both good and bad reasons, pretty drastically. So today I thought it'd be fun to bring it back one more time and take a look at how they simultaneously ruined and also kinda did right by my favorite character. There's a lot to unpack here if you couldn't tell, so let's just go ahead and jump into it. Just like you saw before, James also comes in this new style of packaging. There's nothing new to add here from what I've said previously though. All around I still love it and I hope this is something they continue with. It's aesthetically pleasing, honestly kinda simplistic, but it's also something we've already discussed, so let's not get too deep into that. What I really want to focus on in this video is just the model as a whole, and honestly how confused I am by it. I guess starting off with the basics, just like the others, James has a printed face and a lot of printed detail. Everything from side rods to rivets, even a simulated cab fire, which has to be my favorite part even now. Though the more apparent and obvious change this James has is his new chassis, which no longer is a black Thomas one, but instead two rotating bogies that simulate his actual basis, while his tender, just like on previous models, still sits on 4 wheels. It's honestly at this point my confusion with this model starts to arise, and honestly I feel as if Mattel was a little bit confused when making this model. Everybody knows James is a big engine, but he's not a big engine. He's a medium-sized mixed traffic engine, meaning he's not a Percy, but he's not a Murdoch either. And honestly I feel as if this was conveyed better with previous models. Despite the fact they were 060s that sat on Thomas chassis, I feel as if that helped play into the fact that he was a medium-sized tender engine. The new model may sit on an accurate basis, but the previous factor is quickly lost. So to me it feels as if they're trying more to make James similar to Gordon, a bigger engine, while also not taking the appropriate extra steps to do so, like giving his tender the extra wheel set, which I think would have greatly helped this model's proportions. And speaking of just that, there are a couple more issues the model has around such. If you're looking at his boiler, smoke box, or face, you may notice that they seem a bit smaller, especially when compared to the other engines. I had said previously, one of the more defining features I find in these new Wooden Railway models is their bulk. Even when directly next to Percy, I feel as if James is lacking in this department. And while next to a character like Gordon this may make sense, visually it's a little bit offsetting. To accommodate his new bogies, the locomotive part of James was pretty greatly sized up, while for some reason they decided to slightly shrink his tender. It may sit a bit higher, but lengthwise is even smaller than the original. Tie this in with the fact they made the locomotive part of James longer, and I just don't see what Mattel was thinking here. His elongated front end with a short, stubby, well, chode-like tender just makes things a little bit off. I don't mean to sound too harsh, since even with those factors at play, this is probably my favorite model. Likely even helped by those factors, but I still have to admit it's a strange one. Especially when compared to previous iterations, it's hard to tell what Mattel was going for here. And like I said before, looking at the model, it feels as if they were just as confused. It's almost as if they were attempting to put James in the same league as Gordon, taking some steps to make him look like that of a larger engine while failing to take other crucial ones, like giving him the 2 larger bogies but for some reason shrinking the tender, or leaving his face and boiler about the same size as previous iterations, while making the other characters in the line more bulky, in many ways acting against the active changes they were making. It feels as if they were trying to get James to fit in where he doesn't belong, and as such, he doesn't fit in anywhere. He's too big to fit in with the small engines like Thomas and Percy, and too small to fit in with the large engines like Gordon. So I guess I'm kinda eating my words, maybe they nailed that medium-sized part, but at the expense of him being quite strange. I think the biggest issue this entire range has is nobody really knows what they're trying to replicate. They have all this extra detail like that of a CGI character, while also having these cartoony, all-engines-go-like expressive faces. I really enjoy that extra detail, and I really like the faces these models have. The smile James has is adorable, but neither are very clear on what James they're trying to replicate. Add that into the fact that this model's already pretty confusing, and I'm not sure what to think. What's certain is I now own a very unique James model, to say the least. And all of those gripes aside, I'm very happy I do. The collection would never be complete until then. And while it's pretty clear that previous versions of James were better for their own reasons, I think the same could be said with literally every model they're going to release in this range. I just happen to find James even more unique despite the fact. So, on the chance you're ever out and about and happen to come upon one of these guys, I highly recommend you pick one up. If not for the fact that he's 1 James, 2 has an accurate wheelbasis, and 3 is super detailed, maybe just to laugh at for having an uncomfortably small tender. Either way, it's TrainBoy approved, and definitely a memorable model. And now I'm even more curious about the Edward they're making, so I may have to pick one of those up too. Until then, however, this has been, I guess, my review of the new Wooden Railway James. And hopefully you guys enjoyed my confusion just as much as I did. Really quick, I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons, and also ask you guys, should I get more of these as they come out and continue this small series? Be sure to let me know down in the comments, and as always guys, thanks again for watching. And with all of that being said, hopefully I'll see you guys in the next one.
Either subscribe, donate, or get the fuck out.